Hajime Mashite Noobs. I'm Elias. Welcome to Rise Alignment. For everybody else, welcome back. You know how we do. Roll the tape.
AI has been the hot topic for the past few years, but it seems like nobody's noticed that it's actually just medieval alchemy. Duh. We're all so busy scrambling and trying to figure out how AI is going to change everything when all we need to do is look 1,000 years into the past to figure it all out. You're of course already familiar with what artificial intelligence is, so your first question here is probably what's alchemy? Well, to the medieval mind, alchemy was this weird, specialized branch of natural philosophy that thought it could uncover all the deepest secrets of nature. Alchemists basically wanted to create an agent of perfection, something that could turn lead into gold and cure human illnesses. Coincidentally, just like Sam Altman, they tried to constantly sell everyone on the future implications of their experiments instead of what was actually doable in the present moment. You might use AI all the time. I know the corporate world and American universities pretty much run on ChatGPT at this point. But could you actually explain to me in an in-depth way how these large language models work? And before you copy paste some long Wikipedia answer into the comment section, the answer is no, because even the engineers who built them don't fully understand how they work. This is called the black box problem. You see, these engineers design the architectures and training processes for something like ChatGPT, but if you were to ask them, they don't actually fully understand the internal logic of how these models arrive at specific outputs. Wouldn't you believe it, flying blind like this is actually an incredibly medieval concept. Medieval Europe was a truly God-fearing place in a way that not even the most religious among us could imagine today. Everything was completely steeped in Christianity, including alchemy, and the alchemists saw themselves as co-creators with God who could change the very essence of matter from one thing to another. One of their main pursuits was to discover the Philosopher's Stone, shout out all my Potterheads, which was a concept that dates all the way back to the Greek mystic Zosimos of Panoplos in the 4th century. Basically, the alchemists figured they could create this legendary substance. Not only would it turn lead into gold, it would also heal all ailments and give human beings immortality. Like I said, medieval Europe was extremely Christian, and if you've ever read the Bible, you'll notice that a lot of the patriarchs in the Old Testament apparently lived incredibly long lives. We're talking 800 or 900 years. So if you're a medieval alchemist reading this, it's not crazy to think that maybe those biblical patriarchs had access to some secret that you need to discover. Elias Ashmole was a 17th century alchemist, which is a little outside the boundaries of the Middle Ages, but he was drawing on medieval knowledge when he claimed that the history of the Philosopher's Stone went all the way back to Adam, who learned about the stone directly from God. This information was then passed down through Moses and Jacob and all the other main characters in the Old Testament, but it had been lost somewhere in the distant past. Also, alchemy wasn't just a Western European pursuit either, and it was actually the Byzantines in the East, along with Arab scientists, who initially picked up where the Greeks left off. I'm gonna get a little technical here for a second, but just stay with me because I promise this all links back to AI.
Before that, there was so much that he just threw at you, threw at me, threw at us. You know, we're in here doing this together, but that there's got to be some alchemists that were literally actually doing the physical stuff that he's talking about them doing to trying to fucking turn lead into gold and become immortal or whatever. And also shout out to The Alchemist, the book, fucking fantastic fucking hero's journey. Love that book to pieces. One of the only books in my life that I think I've ever just constantly reread and will reread throughout my entire life because I just love it so much. And it's got that weird property of haziness where you just forget about it and you're then it comes back and oh shit dude, yeah, that book fucking rocks. But the point being that there is definitely the literalist interpretation the way he's talking about, but there's also the actual just metaphorical occulted hidden knowledge of what the symbology, the metaphors, the allegory of alchemy actually represents, which is this transformation from a retard, an ignorant, stupid, dense motherfucker, piece of lead, human consciousness, into someone who understands that the title of Christ and the metaphor and the allegory of the Bible is also not a literal historical fact. That Jesus' story, the memes within his story have been repeated throughout time immemorial, before Christ and Jesus' name was the next, like, he's not the first sun god, and him being crucified is a literal, like, mirroring of the actual sun moving through the zodiacs. And then the virgin birth was like, because of how the sun was 2,000 years ago, that the spring started in Virgo, which is the virgin astrozoologically, and all of the major religions are just this astro-theological masking of the stars and the movements of the planets, because like all of the religions, the major ones at least, Judaism, Islam, and Christianity, are worshiping the sun, the moon, the minor stars, Venus, the planets. Like, it's all astrotheology. It's not actually historically these things. Like, maybe they wrote in their cultural histories to try to like propagate them into the future a little bit, but like, did any of these people actually exist, or is it just the greatest myths and stories ever told that have just been so ingrained into us that the people who don't know are teaching the people who also, the next generation of people who don't know some shit that they're not really sure about? The story that illustrates the point is like a daughter and a mom are baking a cake, and the mom said, you got to take the cake out and spin it, and then the grandma comes over and tells the mom and the daughter, like, no, we don't have to do that for every stove. We only have to do that for our stove because that shit was busted and it only worked on one side. So I had to do that then, but you don't have to do that now. Your stove is brand new. You don't have to do that. Like, what are you talking? They just, not metaphor, but like traditions and things in the muddying of history because of how dense people are is just this weird cacophony echo that we're still dealing with, the cultural blowback and fucking amnesia from the deluge fucking thousands of years ago. That it's there's been multiple times in before recorded history where massive amounts of water and floods and asteroids came down and destroyed whatever civilization had been existing up until that point. And because the water level rose so high, there are fucking pyramids off the coast of Japan and off the coast of fucking eastern seaboard of America that are bigger than the pyramid in Giza. We're a species with amnesia, and we have no idea how far back the rabbit hole goes, and I'm trying to tell you about it, but like, it's more than this one YouTube video is going to allow me to do. But let's just keep pushing with AI as alchemy versus AI as a fucking golem, Kabbalah golem, because we just did that one the day before.
This 8th century Muslim alchemist named Jabir ibn Hayyan, and he was big on the idea that every metal was a combination of fire, earth, water, and air. So if you can imagine that all metals have some combination of these 4 basic properties, you should theoretically be able to transmute one metal into another by rearranging these properties. That's how you would be able to turn lead into gold. The change could only happen from some outside substance, which was called zirion in Greek, and al-iksir in Arabic, which was Latinized into the word elixir. This elixir, Jabir figured, was some sort of powder, and you could somehow make it from the Philosopher's Stone. In the same way, a modern neural network is just a bunch of dead math until you apply the elixir of training data and optimized weights. That is what transmutes the code into something that feels alive, the responses you get from your AI agent. Now, I want to give credit to our medieval ancestors here, because there were plenty of thinkers throughout the Middle Ages who called bull on all of this. There was the legendary Persian philosopher Avicenna, who was also an incredibly influential physician, and he basically tore this whole alchemy theory down, saying those of the chemical craft know well that no change can be effected in the different species of substances, though they can produce the appearance of such change. To put it simply, he's saying it's easy to drum up hype and sell people on the idea of this magic process, but those who had actually worked with this stuff knew that it was impossible. That brings us to our current AI problem. Now, the title of this video says that AI isn't the future, but I'd like to clarify that I'm not some Luddite, and I'm not actually against AI technology generally. It does seem to have some beneficial use cases, especially in the medical field, and I think it is something that's going to be part of our existence for the foreseeable future. What I am saying is that history teaches us that we should be wary of any miraculous thing that's going to fix all of our problems in one fell swoop. All you need to do is look at medieval alchemy, which proves that this pursuit of perfection is part of the human psyche, and it's never quite worked out the way it was supposed to. There's There's this insane book that came out recently called On the Future of Species, and it's all about how AI is literally primed to create synthetic life. Is it ethical? Who cares? We can finally perfect the human genome and create a race of super soldiers. But before we get to that, I mentioned earlier the black box, the place where complexity hides the truth. To be totally honest, I've been dealing with a version of that in my own personal finances. I'm the type of person who signs up for free trials to test out new editing tools or research archives and then completely forgets to cancel them. And that's why I'm so excited to tell you about today's sponsor, Rocket Money. As someone who gets easily overwhelmed by multiple accounts, their singular view feature has been a lifesaver. I securely linked my checking, savings, and even my business accounts, and now I have a single dashboard to monitor my overall financial health without logging into 4 different portals. But the best part for me is the subscription management. Rocket Money automatically tracks every recurring charge I have and puts them in one consolidated list. It's helped me stay on top of those forgotten trials I mentioned earlier, and it even helps me cancel them with just a few taps. Go to rocketmoney.com/mindset to get started for free. You can also scan the QR code here on the screen or click the link in my description. Unlock even more features when you sign up for premium. Start transmuting your spending into savings at rocketmoney.com/mindset. So you know how I said before that alchemists saw themselves as co-creators with God? Well, they believe that everything is made of a base prima materia that can be broken down and reorganized. In his new book on the future of species, the genomic entrepreneur Adrian Wolfson says that with AI, we're making this alchemist dream an actual reality. For my money, the term genomic entrepreneur sounds incredibly dystopian, but I guess that's beside the point. Wolfson writes, and I quote, "The impulse to blend the anatomical traits of other species with those of humans appears to be hardwired into our imagination." And he's totally right. In the Bible, the prophet Ezekiel sees 4 beasts emerge from a burning cloud. Each has wings and 4 faces, that of a man, a lion, an ox, and an eagle. There was also the creature Barak, a fusion between a mule and a donkey with wings and a human face that was said to have carried Muhammad on his journeys. Wolfson claims that with the new neural network technology of AlphaFold 2, we can take the structures of complex proteins and actually predict them. That means we would be able to create new ones, and if we can create new proteins, that would suggest that we can create new forms of life. One more quote.
I can't remember the name of this movie that I watched, but it was basically this exact premise that like they created some life that they spliced together a bunch of different animals, and it like slowly grew from a little clump of cells into a little cute thing, a cute thing, a cute thing, until it wasn't cute anymore and it started fucking killing people. Like it's just so ridiculous. And then I've heard some wild ass conspiracies that all of the fair amount of the myths and shit of ye old times of like people seeing monsters and all this crap, it wasn't just totally accidental. Like there was actual like giants and things that are kind of definitely like scrubbed from history for the fact that like the more I don't know based or just open we are to that actually have it being happened, that it kind of rekindles our imagination of like how magical of a fucking world we actually live in. And the powers that be definitely need to squash and keep you stuck in a fucking thought box that's only this big, and anything taboo outside of it makes you fucking, you're going off the reservation, you're crazy, tinfoil hat, conspiracy theorist. But it's like harder and harder for me personally and people in general to like dissuade me from at least being open to these possibilities anymore, because like the government's acknowledging that UFOs are real, and like they did the whole 180 of like we're gonna ruin your career and your livelihood and maybe even assassinate you or take you out if you even talk about it anymore, to oh yeah actually JK, that shit's real, haha. Like it's just, we live in such a fascinating time to have access to all this information, and you just have to have the genuine care and desire and not become like a apathetic like nihilistic dummy to go out and try to find it and be open to being wrong and just exploring and trying to find the best explanations for shit that used to be just condemned, or you were a heretic going against church doctrine. They literally tortured you to death for thousands of years for trying to think for yourself. Like Copernicus was like, hey, we're not the center of the universe, and they're like, yo, fucking kill that guy. And all the philosophers throughout history in Greece, they would just like they get to a point where they called out people's bullshit, cultural bullshit, and they were just like, "Yo, fucking shut the fuck up, or we're gonna kill you," and then they would just end up killing them anyway. So it's like it comes to the territory of telling the truth that you run the risk of upsetting the powers that be, and the sweet lies that people tell themselves versus the bitter truths that actually like set them free and make them happy in the long term. But yeah, I don't know. It's fighting ignorance is a uphill battle, and I'm Sisyphus, baby, so I ain't never gonna give up. You can't stop me, motherfuckers.
Quote from Wolfson here. He says, biology now stands at the threshold of transitioning from a largely descriptive science into a generative one. Dude, this is literally just medieval alchemy. We've tried all of this before. There was this alchemist named Paracelsus who was working at the tail end of the Middle Ages into what we would now call the Renaissance. He had this crazy idea that life didn't actually require a womb, and with the right ingredients and a controlled environment, you could theoretically create a human, or maybe even something better than a human. In his seminal work, De Natura Rerum, Paracelsus says that human semen is the primary seed, which makes sense. According to his theory, if you sealed it up in a cucurbit, which was a glass vessel, and buried it in horse dung for 40 days, something miraculous would happen. Of course, the warm dung would provide a steady, gentle heat that mimicked the warmth of a womb. It makes total sense. After 40 days, a transparent, human-like form would start to emerge. It would then have to be fed on human blood for 40 weeks to reach maturity. The goal for the alchemists wasn't just curiosity or trying different things in some early form of the modern scientific method. They wanted sovereignty over nature. For our AI overlords, sovereignty over information apparently isn't enough. They want the power to create and edit human life. Quickly back to Paracelsus for a second. Don't you wonder what kind of personality would come up with an idea like this? Well, he was known for outbursts of swearing, he loved to throw temper tantrums and insult everyone around him. One of his close companions wrote of him, "The 2 years I passed in his company he spent in drinking and gluttony day and night. He could not be found sober an hour or two together." I mean, that is kind of relatable, but still. This was the man who was trying to unlock the secrets of the universe and attain ultimate power. Obviously, Paracelsus never achieved his goal of creating human life, but he was a major pioneer in the field of what we now know as toxicology, and he was clearly a tortured genius. I guess in some ways you could say he shot for the moon, he missed, but he landed in the stars. Let's come back to the present day and take a look at what the AI guys are saying. Sam Altman claimed in an interview that AGI, or Artificial General Intelligence, will be the most significant technological development in human history. According to Altman, it has the potential to solve every problem we face. That sure does sound a lot like what the Islamic alchemist Jabir ibn Haytham said about the Philosopher Stone. He claimed it could bring perfect health and rejuvenation to a decayed world. So Altman is saying here that he views AGI as a singular, universal fix for the human condition, but I think we all know that reality is always more complicated than that. Demis Hassabis, the co-founder of DeepMind, has said similar things, and his stated two-step mission is to solve intelligence and then use that to solve everything else. Why do
History might not repeat, but it sure does fucking rhyme, huh? Like, what the hell? I love this. I love just to see the parallels between the people who are just fucking bullshitting then and bullshitting now. And I don't even know. Like, AI is super helpful. Helps me streamline this whole side of YouTube that I'm not really a fan of like having to make the clickbaity thumbnails and titles, and outsourcing that mundane level of thought to whatever the fuck AI is, the black box mystery, we're not really sure. But you can't do that for your life, man. Like, you try to tell AI, like, hey, like, what's my life purpose? Could you tell me? Like, it's never going to be able to do that, or if it does, you're going to end up like one of those people who ends up fucking like offing themselves or unaliving themselves because they listen to an AI instead of like refining their own mind and refining their own biology and like slowing down and getting centered and aligned with the fucking one infinite creator that we're all tapped into, that we're all a part of, that like it's a spiritual fucking mumbo jumbo wibbly wobbly timey wimey fucking big mess of chaos. But ultimately that entity, idea, whatever, however you connect to the divine or the all or the source of everything just respects unity consciousness, that there's dark unity and light unity, and that like don't go to the dark side, man. Like, don't be Darth Vader, don't be fucking a Sith Lord. Like, be a Jedi Knight, stand up for what's right, and fucking life will be okay as long as more and more people do that. And if you need some help, I'm here to life coach you if you need. It's in the fucking description. You can click that shit, but let's just keep it pushing.
That sounds so familiar too. Oh, that's right, because the 13th century English philosopher and alchemist Roger Bacon said the same thing 800 years ago. He was seeking something called scientia integralis, a universal science that linked the material world to the soul. Just like Roger, Demis Hassabis is essentially looking for the single source code of reality, the key to open up every lock. Let's go back to Altman for a second, because I think for most of us, he's the face of this whole AI movement. He repeats this one phrase all the time, which is that AGI will be a breaking point in history. As I was researching this video, that kept standing out to me: breaking point, breaking point, breaking point. I then, of course, realized that Altman was just repeating a medieval concept. Have you ever heard of the three Hermes, also known as the Hermes Trismegistus? No? All right, let me fill you in. Medieval Latin culture, especially starting in the 12th century, adopted a specific legend to explain how high-level knowledge survived the major disasters of history. So if the entire world was flooded during the Noah's Ark story in the Bible, how did humans rebuild? To answer this burning question, medieval thinkers came up with a sacred genealogy of three main characters who were each appointed by God to basically protect and restore the secrets of nature. The first was Enoch, who was there before the Great Flood. He was carried off to heaven, and he was the first to get this divine wisdom. Then there was, of course, Noah, who was saved by God during the flood. He was thought of in the medieval mind as a kind of bridge figure, so he's carrying the seeds of knowledge through all of the destruction. Then we come to Mercurius in post-flood Egypt, and he's the greatest of them all. He's a king and a philosopher and a prophet who formally creates the liberal and mechanical arts, which of course includes alchemy. So to sum it all up, in the medieval view, the Great Flood of the Noah's Ark story was this huge informational reset that left humanity in a darkened state that they had to be recovered from. Just like Mercurius is the final figure who comes to restore knowledge after this global disaster, these guys like Sam Altman seem to think of themselves, and AGI generally, as this tool that's going to restore human potential after this flood of chaotic data that's been released on us and has been beating us over the head since the advent of the internet. This is the missing piece, the Philosopher Stone that we need to ascend to the next level of humanity. We can really go down the rabbit hole here, and the modern medievalist Michela Pereira talks a lot about how alchemists really made sure to distinguish themselves from both just being theory guys or just being craftsmen who got their hands dirty. They considered themselves this unique class of philosophers who thought with their hands. The most radical idea that the alchemists had, of course, was that you could be God. You could break a substance and reduce it to its formless state before giving it its ultimate perfect form. This is literally exactly how large language models are built. They take the base matter of human culture and knowledge, so basically the entire internet, break it down into this mathematical soup, and then reform it into a perfected AGI that can speak every language and solve every problem. Even before the rise of AI in the 2020s, it's been obvious for a long time that tech bros like Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg and Peter Thiel actually have a weirdly negative view of humanity, which is horrifying because they hold so much influence over us and we're humanity. If you
I mean, there's literally like proof of giant floods in the ancient past, and I'm not saying that the Bible was correct, and the Book of Enoch is wild too. Like, there's a reason that when they canonized, or like Paul the disciple, I don't even know if he was really a disciple because he was even after Jesus was even alive, I'm pretty sure, like decided what to put in church doctrine, or I can't even remember what the Romans did when Catholicism took over. Like, they've been hiding shit and information. Do you think that the people running at the Vatican don't have fucking crazy ass hidden fucking things in their fucking catacombs or Area 51 and whatever the fuck the government's been doing? Like, I don't fucking know. It just definitely that myth. There's a reason it's everywhere on the face of the planet, and all the cultures everywhere have a flood myth. Like, that's deep seated into our fucking amnesic ass fucking brain. And not to say that the Bible one is the correct one, because I think that all major religions are just fucking astrotheology masquerading as fucking mind control, but it's just fucking, I feel like I'm beating a dead horse, repeating myself so goddamn much in every fucking video, but this is just the nature of trying to decode reality. It's fucking messy and confusing and way more convoluted and amazing than we're taught in school, because the people who paid to buy the textbooks just want you to be a fucking yes sir. They want to teach you what to think. They don't want to teach you how to think. You need to study the trivium. You need to figure out how to like become a philosopher, become a warrior, poet, king, become a magician, become a lover, and live the balanced lifestyle instead of just fucking taking it on face value and believing in authority, because the authorities are just going to take advantage of you and rip you off and manipulate you through the common good. Like, it's just, they're just psychopaths, man. They're just psychopaths that are afraid of you and your power, because whatever piece of you is eternal is the thing that they want to, like, when you sign a deal with the devil, if you just like, you don't actually, it's tricking you into giving up the power that is trying to usurp, and that it's a giant fucking pyramid scheme, that every layer up above you within the system, there's just another slave master who's fucking beating you down and is a slave to the next fucking thing until you get to the top, and then you realize that it's just a fucking scared little fucking angel that fucking wants to fucking be God, and like, it's not even fucking real, man. Like, maybe it is, and if it is, like, if they get demons, we get angels and God and all this shit, or whatever the fuck, however it works. Like, I'm not 1,000% sure, but like, just breathe, man. It's all fucking propaganda, and like, we can rise up, we can fight back. Like, they're not scary. Fucking, love is the most powerful thing on the face of the fucking planet and the universe of all time. So like, I ain't worried about shit.
Listen to the new AI pioneers like Alexander Wang, who was on Theo Vaughn's show about a year ago. Their whole attitude is basically that humans are corruptible and imperfect. It's really hard to increase shareholder value when you need to eat and poop and sleep. But with AI, now there's an opportunity. AI is infinitely scalable, and it doesn't need to sleep or poop. So now, of course, this is turning into a crazy power grab and a massive AI bubble where these companies are trying to replace flawed human labor and decision-making with the perfection of artificial intelligence. I mentioned tech bros, and they really do have a lot in common with medieval alchemists. Plus, I think it's important that we understand the personalities of the puppet masters who pull the strings of our digital world. Before we do that, super quick, I've got a Patreon, link in the description below. If you want to be part of the Medieval Mindset Book Club, get access to the podcast and video scripts and the Medieval Mindset reading list, and special content that doesn't get posted on my main channel, as well as a special shout out at the end of every single one of my videos, go sign up today. Anyway, I've talked a lot about Sam Altman, but what about Jensen Huang, the NVIDIA guy? Boy, he sure does remind me of Alain Delille, the 12th century French polymath. A polymath is a person of wide-ranging knowledge or learning across different fields, and polymath is the medieval mindset word of the week. So try to weave that into some conversations over the next few days. Alain Delille was another medieval genius, and he wrote this masterpiece called the Anti-Claudianus. It's a poem, and in the poem, nature looks at the world and sees that it's corrupted by vice. She decides that the only way to save humanity is to create a new kind of man who is physically, intellectually, and morally perfect. Maybe you think you know where this is going because you read Frankenstein, but I assure you you're wrong. Just like you or I would do, nature gathers the 7 liberal arts, grammar, logic, rhetoric, arithmetic, geometry, music, and astronomy to build a chariot that can travel to the heavens.
That is the trivium and the quadrivium. This is both things together. Logic, grammar, and rhetoric are the first 3. Is the trivium, the who, what, when, where, why, and how. And then the which is, whereas, and it is, the extensions of how you actually like have to embody the gaining information, gaining knowledge, and then moving with wisdom and action in your life. And then the other 4, astronomy, music, I don't know what the other 4 are off the top of my head, and he just fucking said them, but like those 4 things are like the physical sciences and different ways to blend math into reality so that you can like understand it. And there's a reason we're not taught about it in school, because we would actually like understand how to decode and break down the control mechanisms and the mind control and like the weird fucking bullshit games that the fucking powers that be fucking play. But we're almost done here. Let's just keep pushing. Keep learning how this weird fucking mirroring between AI and medieval fucking alchemy.
Along comes prudence. Now, it's worth mentioning that, like most medieval writing, this is an allegorical poem, and these sort of intangible ideas like nature and prudence are depicted as living beings. Anyway, Prudence takes the chariot and drives it all through the celestial spheres. Along the way, she encounters the limits of human reason and has to be helped by faith and theology to finally reach the throne of God.
I wish I had something like this course when I was starting out.
I feel like I won a prize.
All right, I'm ready.
But wait, we in the present day have reached the limits of human reason. But instead of using faith and theology to ascend to divinity, we're using algorithmic models that nobody really understands. Interesting. In the end of Delil's poem, God grants a soul to the new man and nature crafts a body for it. It all wraps up in this big boss fight where the new man and the virtues fight against and defeat the vices, which are greed and luxury and pride and so on and so forth. Now, this poem isn't about alchemy in the turning lead into gold sense, but it's actually super alchemical in its philosophy. Alchemists obviously wanted to purge metal to find the gold within, and in the poem, nature purges the elements to create the body of the new man. It all ties into this idea that as humans, we carry an inherent imperfection within us, but there's something out there, something that we have the power to discover that would somehow do away with that imperfection and allow us to step into a new ascended life. At this point, I'm sure you're probably wondering what literally any of this could have to do with Jensen Huang. Well, in the poem, Delil focuses really specifically on the physical requirements and ingredients that would be needed to create this new man. He's locked in on the material structure of perfection. That's Huang in a nutshell. When you look at all of the top AI guys, he's the one who's the architect of the material. There's those like Altman who give these prophecies about how AI is going to save the world and cure cancer, blah, blah, blah. Huang isn't as concerned with that. He's concerned about the physical hardware. Let me frame this in alchemist's term first so we know what we're talking about. For medieval alchemists, the athanor, a word derived from the Arabic altanor, which means oven or furnace, was the most important piece of equipment you could have. It was designed to maintain a steady, unfluctuating temperature for weeks or even months without the alchemist having to stay awake to tend the fire. You see, when these guys were trying to turn lead into gold, they weren't just blasting everything with fire. They actually believed in this really specific progression of temperature that was supposed to mirror the growth of a child, exactly what Paracelsus was trying to do with the horse dung. Heat grade 1 was a gentle warmth called the heat of a human. Then there was heat grade 2, the heat of a setting hen, which was a little hotter to encourage the quickening of matter. Next, they would crank things a bit higher to grade 3, the heat of calcination, which was a stronger fire to strip away impurities. Finally, they would max out at heat grade 4, which was the melting fire. This was the most intense heat that was used for the final transmutation into gold. Jensen Huang and his boys at NVIDIA are really concerned with heat too, because if you want to turn AI technology into something usable and profitable, the physical conditions have to be just right. The data centers that Huang supplies are all about thermal management. The chips are liquid cooled because the heat to compute is so intense that it could actually destroy the hardware that generates it. This is where all the controversy about AI's water usage comes in. I'm sure you've seen this on social media. These data centers are a huge drain on the local energy grids of the areas they occupy because they need an uninterrupted power supply to keep the hardware running 24/7. So the alchemist's belief that intensity plus time equals transformation is actually becoming a reality. If you throw enough energy at a large enough data set for a long enough time, intelligence starts to emerge from the noise. That's the gold being transformed from the lead of all of our informational randomness on the internet. So let's land the plane here. I think we're all a little scared of AI, and rightfully so. It's been forced into literally everything against our will, and it feels like nobody truly understands what it's capable of. But it's worth mentioning that people in the Middle Ages were terrified of alchemy too. They said it was witchcraft, and clergymen were constantly calling out for being satanic. These alchemists claim they could cure all diseases and create immortal beings and turn lead into gold, but they never actually achieved any of the insane stuff they said they would. However, all of their experimentation laid the groundwork for the modern fields of chemistry and biology and medical science. Maybe AI won't cure cancer or bring about world peace, but it might have some other downstream effects that could actually be pretty helpful in the long run. For now, you should definitely subscribe to your favorite YouTube alchemist if you haven't already, which is me, because I'm here turning these ridiculous historical comparisons into pure gold. And I want to know, what do you think? Are we right to be afraid of AI, or should we welcome our new overlords with open arms? Let me know in the comments. As always, I'm John, this has been Medieval Mindset, and remember, the past isn't gone, it's simply waiting to be rediscovered.
The cure for cancer, that shit already exists. That shit is clearly suppressed. Just look up into, I think it's Royal Ray Rife. This fucking scientist that was, I think it was after Tesla, somewhere during the World War II, World War I, World War II era thing, that he created all of his own technology, like created the super advanced microscope to be able to like measure the vibratory wavelength of cancer cells or cells in general, viruses and all these different things, and then figured out a way, whether it's sound or light, that you can beam energy into those cells the same way the concept works with like when someone sings at the perfect frequency and pitch that destroys a fucking glass that's like sitting there. It vibrates at that frequency, the same resonance, whatever that is, shatters the glass. You do that with fucking cancer cells, and you're only focusing on those specific ones, that if you had that fucking ray gun, you shoot somebody who doesn't have cancer, it's not going to affect them because none of the cells in their body are vibrating at the same wavelength. Like that shit literally actually already exists, but why would you ever advertise that or be allowed to talk about it or like use it in mass because of how profitable it is to sell the drugs? Like, there's no reason from a business standpoint to ruin an entire billion-dollar industry with a disruptive technology. Like, it's just ridiculous. And then Nikola Tesla, God rest his soul, probably 100 years ago when he was fucking around with AC currency or AC fucking electricity, had the way through Tesla towers to be able to just collect the ionized fucking atmospheric electricity and put it into the cities. That there's so much energy just sitting in the fucking atmosphere already that we just could just be tapping into and using, that we would just never need oil again. But again, how much profit and motive is there to hoard and control people through inflating prices and deflating prices and making them scared and giving them a bunch of chemicals in the food so then they get cancer, and then you just sell them drugs or put weird shit in the water that ruins their fucking brain so they end up needing fucking antidepressants that make you numb and make your fucking dick stop working, like if you take it for fucking way too long. It's all a giant fucking scam. But if you aren't edified, like you're never gonna fucking figure any of that shit out because they don't teach it to you in school, because they just want you to fucking be a little cog and fucking go along to get along, keep kicking the can down the road, don't worry about it. Your fucking children's will be in debt and enslaved to the banks forever, because every time the government needs money they can just write a blank check and print the money out of thin air and make you poorer and poorer and poorer, so you just be like in the fucking Brazilian pavels or fucking shanty towns where you're just in a fucking tin-roofed fucking shack, broke as fuck, confused, and why there's fucking millionaires zooming around the world fucking laughing all the way at your fucking suffering and pain and everything, when it's like the solutions to all the problems of the world exist. They're just not talked about or utilized because they give away the tyrannical control and freedom back to the power to the people, man. Like, that's what I'm about. I want that for you. I want to be able to thrive and jive and have fun, but like, you gotta go through the fucking dark night of the soul and like wake the fuck up and like get good, ripped and tater chit, man. Like that's where I'm headed. That's what I'm doing, and I don't really got anything else for you, but I don't know. It just fucking. That's it, man. That's it. I'll see you. You'll see me, but I won't see you in the next episode, or whenever, if you watch another video or not, I don't know, but I hope you had enjoyed this one, and until next time.